A Girl Business podcast would like to thank its sponsors, the Crescent Hotel and Crescent Store. Be sure to follow along with Matt and his team as he brings back a historical landmark to Plumas County. Lucio's Mexican and American Food Restaurant. Lucio's is open Tuesday through Sunday, located in Quincy, California. Great atmosphere, and most importantly, delicious food. Welcome back to another episode of A Girl Business Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby, and today we're at the Kelly-Griggs House Museum, and I feel so special because I'm sitting on would you say this is Victorian?
Yes.
I'm sitting on Victorian furniture. I'm scared to move, so I didn't have a heavy breakfast today, so that's good. And I am joined by Gail and Linda, two of the board members here at the house, and we're going to hear all about their journey, their love for history, and how they ended up here at the board at the House Museum. So, Gail, would you like to go first?
Sure. When I came, my husband and I both have a love of history. And when I came to Red Bluff, I came as a docent or a guide to Kelly-Griggs and was mentored by older women who could tell me the history of both the town and the house. So it was a fun way to get acquainted in the community and also to become a guide. And then I went away from Kelly-Griggs for a while and have been back now for several years. So that's how I became involved, volunteering at the House Museum.
My name is Linda, of course, but I moved up to Red Bluff about 6 years ago and have always been interested in history. I worked in libraries for 20 years. And when I moved up here from the Bay Area, I joined the Tehama County Genealogical and Historical Society right away, helped with Friends of the Library, and then that's where I met Gail, and then Gail said, come to Kelly-Griggs. So after, we kind of did a few things or started talking about it just prior to COVID. COVID shut us down just like everybody else. So it was pretty quiet for a while, but then we all got together, Gail and I and several other ladies who, again, they've lived here much longer than I have. They've taught me so much about the area and about the home, and we all love history, so we're all very enthusiastic about keeping this place open. And that, of course, gets you involved with, now I also help the Tehama County Museum. So it's nice because all the histories, of course, tie into each other and just completes the picture of all our great history.
Did either of you girls go to school or anything for art history, or
No.
just kind of a natural love?
Yes, really a natural love. And Red Bluff is so full of Victorians, and part of the history was that the paddle wheelers could come as far as Red Bluff and bring the supplies for the miners, but also the people to summer. And that's one of the reasons we have so many Victorian homes. And then Kelly-Griggs House Museum is I think the only Victorian home open for tours to give people an idea of how they would have lived in those days. So the history goes way back. The house is just a few years older than when the town of Red Bluff was incorporated and begun.
Wow.
The house was built in 1880. So by Sidney Griggs on the existing rock work of a house that had burned, we think. And then he raised sheep, and he was a miner. He came to be from the East Coast to be a miner, and then moved into sheep and cattle raising and trailing them around to other states and that sort of thing. So he settled here, and then he married a widow with 2 children, Mrs. Montgomery, and were quite active. We're finding out through the newspaper articles they were both very active in the community, very much socialites. And then when she survived him and when she passed away, she sold it to the Kelly family. They had many children, all adults, but none of them ever had any children. So only the 2 families have owned the house. Then when Miss Kelly was ready to sell the house in the late 60s, she sold it to the House Museum Foundation. And that's how the nonprofit came to own the house.
Nice.
And it is a neat opportunity. If you drive through the west side of Red Bluff, you will see all the beautiful Victorian homes. But you can't just go up and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'm coming in. I want to check it out," because people want to, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity to step into the past, to see how some people lived. Not everybody lived this ornately, of course. And frankly, I think the Kelly family, the second family who lived here, the daughters were teachers. The men had a camp out near Mount Lassen. They were also ranchers. These were all hardworking people. Mr. and Mrs. Griggs, when they got married, it was later in life, so they didn't have any children with the two of them. He had never married, and like you said, she was a widow. But I think it seems like their harder working days would have been behind them when they had, like you said, more of the time to be the social butterflies of it all. But I used to work. I worked in libraries for 20 years, but when I worked at Sonoma State University, I got to work in the archives. That was part of my job. And once you get sucked in, that's it. You know, the history is amazing. And when we moved up here, you don't even think about Tehama County. I think when you think about counties in California, it's not a big county. It's very rural. There's such a rich California history, pioneer history here that I think really needs to be preserved and shared. And that's what we're about here. So,
How do you girls source your information? Because, you know, it's not like you can go back and scroll down on Facebook and say, oh, what were they doing in the Victorian era? So what are some ways you girls source your
It's
history?
very interesting because each of the board members has a more individual interest. We have a lady that loves to make the linen sparkle and be shiny white, and loves to keep the table settings changing in the dining room. We have another lady that loves to go through old newspapers and cemetery records and find the history that way. And Linda is
I'm one of those ones too who delves into the newspaper articles, and we're lucky I think in Red Bluff, we can go to the Historical Society for some information. Our local library has a lot of information. City Hall has some information, but it's a lot of digging and what we're trying to find now, and we're thinking they've got to be out there somewhere, are pictures of what this house looked like in the interior when it was first bought from Ann Kelly, the last owner. Because, somebody must have taken pictures when they started that refurbishing, and I know I haven't seen those. And Carol says we haven't found them yet, but that would be fascinating to look at.
The interesting thing is we haven't found any written records of the Griggs life in the house, nor the Kellys. What we've really gleaned has been through stories and newspaper records. It's fascinating to me that there's no written history of what it was like to live in the house. We don't have anything even formal about the land around the house, but we think there had to have been a windmill to pump the water. We know there would have been barns. We've read that there were fruit trees, but all of this is in the newspaper readings. It's not anything we have that came with the house that was written.
Well, it's funny, in some of not funny, but some of the newspaper articles, there'll be reports of people stealing fruit that was grown on the property. And then apparently Mr. Griggs, once this house was built other houses around here and rented them out. So he was a landlord also. But yeah, in a lot of the way that people lived, you can kind of, even if you don't know specifically about how these families lived, you can, reading through the history of them, kind of make some assumptions about how they lived. And also when you read about the Victorian era and how people lived in general, because right now we have air conditioning. That wouldn't have been here. That would have been rough in Red Bluff, in my opinion. But and of course, no electric lights. Our light fixtures are the originals, but they would not have been electrified. There was the one bathroom upstairs, so that's another thing that as all these people were living in here throughout the time, it's as elegant as it is, it would have been much more simplistic way of living than, of course, we have now. We do have the transit windows over the doors. You would have opened those to have an airflow come through here to cool off or keep the place warm. Right now, there's 3 fireplaces in the house. There may have been a 4th one upstairs. There's one upstairs, downstairs here, and then one downstairs over here. And there may have been another one upstairs at some point. That's, of course, how you would have kept the house warm. I would assume that the Griggs would have had people working for them and helping with that since they were older when they lived here. And the Kelly family was younger when they lived here. This, like you said, the sons in that family were all a bunch of bachelors, and they all worked just basically, raising money, earning money. And I think the sisters are the ones who convinced them to buy this place as a nice central location. 3 of the sisters, I believe, were teachers.
Trained at Chico Normal to be teachers.
Which is now Chico State.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a normal school. That's what they'd call it. But that
We think that there must have been an outside kitchen, so there would have been workers that would have maids and cooks and that sort of thing for the Griggs family, because when the Kellys bought the house, they added an outside porch, and they added the downstairs bathroom and a kitchen and a bedroom beyond the dining room area. We don't have any
floor plans.
we don't have any floor plans or anything, but
that show the kitchen. We have the
Yeah.
floor plans from, I think it's like late 60s, early 70s, but that wouldn't have included that original kitchen because the Kellys would have already modified it.
Right. All we have is what the Kellys modified with. So, you're right. We do think that the Griggs family would have had household help, and the community had a Chinese area of more than 3,000 people, and there are 5 Chinese families that go back to those original families that are still in town. So,
Wow.
so there would have been household help, probably. And then the Kellys, they all lived here as single adults, basically. And at some point, it sounds like from our reading that they all came and went within the house. And we've read a little bit that they might have rented out some rooms, but because there was one bathroom, that wasn't a successful venture particularly. So, but it's those stories through the newspapers that make the history of the house come alive a little bit.
You know, what's fun too is that I do the posts on Facebook all the time, and I'll throw out some historical things or different pictures. And of course, people who have lived in this community forever, and who were perhaps children when the Kellys were still living here, will relay stories about the families when they lived here. And one thing I always thought this was interesting. Somebody said that when Ann Kelly, the last inhabitant here, when they were getting ready to move her out, apparently she was getting, she's older. I think she lived to be 110, but she was in her 80s when she was still here and getting ready to head out. But she had stacks of newspapers in the house, and they were like, "Oh, we got to clean this up. This is, a fire hazard." And they started burning the papers. But the person who made this comment said that they're burning newspapers and realizing that there's money hidden in those newspapers. So she might have been, I don't know if she was a hoarder, but she stashed money in the newspapers. So they called off the burning and said, let's not do that. This is hers, But I know when the association was formed and bought the house from Ann Kelly, they agreed on a price. They agreed to make one payment a year for 10 years, and in the 10th year they'd pay it off in full, which they did. And that allowed her to retire to another house and ultimately into a retirement home. Apparently she was married once but never had any children. There was another sister who did get married and moved away, and she did have a couple of kids. And there's family relatives in Australia who have reached out to us. And then we had the good fortune, a lady reached out to us a couple months ago. She's the great granddaughter of the Griggs family, the first family here. She lives up in Washington. She goes, "Oh, I want to stop by the house and visit."
It was her grandfather that encouraged her
Yes.
to stop because she would be going near Red Bluff. So the grandfather encouraged her to stop by the house. Those are fun pieces to add to what we know.
And she has more history to add to and give to us, which is wonderful. All of that helps to build this place up, because like you said, there's not a lot of opportunities. You can always look at a Victorian house, but to be able to walk in and walk around and see the things and perhaps how people lived, it makes it more interesting, I think, so.
Would
Anyway.
you say that they lived a semi-unconventional life? Just having, it sounds like the adults came as they needed to, and
I suspect the Kellys did. I think that it sounds like they were all a lot of hard-working siblings. One thing that I've read is that, like I said, they had a Camp Kelly up at Lassen, and people would go out there and they'd spend the summer out there because it gets a little hot in Red Bluff, which you didn't even notice, but they'd spend the summer out there. People could come out and pay them, and they'd cook for them. They had poetry readings, all kinds of interesting things, and people would leave poems about the Kelly family at the camp and write about the meals. Nothing, profound, but just fun little poems about it. And like I said, they were teachers. We haven't found, they were more just a pioneer family, like the Griggs family, ranchers and pioneers, and
the
people,
the brothers,
and people just settling the area. Mr. Griggs, I believe, was actually one of the people who helped map out Northern California as a surveyor. So they might not be the big names like some of the Bidwell and other big names you hear, but they played a significant part in establishing the state.
I do think the Griggs lived a higher socioeconomic life than the Kellys.
Yeah.
The Griggs, he'd been a miner. He had surveyed this area. I think we get the feeling he was a community leader. And then the Kellys, Mrs. Griggs survived him by several years, and she was quite failing when she sold the house to the Kellys. But Linda's right, those were all working people. It would have been a totally different life for the Kellys.
I don't know that they would have had, this carpet was put in by the association years ago, and I don't think that that's something that would have been in the house. This strikes me as being a much more working class. Let's go in and eat. Let's do our work, and like a base. It's kind of almost like it feels like a base camp for all the other things that they did. And yeah.
When you think of teachers, their salary would not have been too big. There would have been no retirement. So Miss Kelly selling the house allowed the money for her to live in
some comfort,
in Sacramento with her niece, near her niece, in her retirement. And Linda's right; she lived to be 108, so she did very well. One of our board members who likes to do the newspapers and look at cemetery records found out that Miss Kelly was buried in Sacramento, not Red Bluff. And in finding her grave, the date was wrong. So she worked with she worked with the monument people to get the right date put on Miss Ann's, right death date put on Miss Ann's gravestone. And then she found out, going through the grave records here in town, she found out that Miss Emma, who would have been the last sister to die before Miss Kelly, she was buried in the local cemetery, but she had no grave marker. So we let that be known to the Kelly-Griggs supporters, and were able to have a grave marker made for Miss Kelly that matched the rest of her family. So those are fun things that we're able to do.
I think personally, as I think it's so nice to learn about, I don't know, even say average working class citizens, because I think that kind of information goes by the wayside on how the regular people lived. It's always great to, I love learning the history of everybody who did some amazing things, but it's nice to see how people lived and what they did and what their coming and going was like. We have a photo of Ann Kelly bringing her horse and buggy as she rode off to teach, and later on she and her sister are learning how to drive a car, and I thought that was kind of, and there's a really cool picture of them learning how to drive a car. I thought that's pretty amazing, to go through that bit of transition in your life,
Right.
and to be, they were, I think, if you're going out and camping all summer long in the mountains, right away, it's not like you would just drive there. At the time, they would have started out going out on horses and staying out there and kind of roughing it. I actually always think it's interesting that people went camping when it feels like normal life would have been a lot like camping all the time anyway.
That's a good point.
So I think, I don't know if I'd go out and just do that again, but that's just me. But anyway, but it's nice just to see how people lived, and it's we enjoy hosting events here, different types of historical presentations to kind of teach about how people lived. And like, we have a great quilt collection here, and we had a wonderful presentation a couple months ago where a lady came out and she kind of dated the quilts for us and was telling us about how they would have been made, who would have made them, how long it would take to make. And everything now is just so prefabricated that we just don't have a full appreciation for how wonderful these things are. And it's a great opportunity for us to be able to share them and educate people. So
we have another program coming up, which will be men's Victorian clothing. Mm-hmm. And we've had, what are some of the other programs
we had a lady come out? Well, that's going to happen in November, that presentation, and that's by a local gentleman who, his name is Sam, and he's amazing. He almost always dresses in Victorian wear, but he has an Instagram page with thousands of followers saying this is how you would have gotten this outfit, this is what you would have been wearing. So we thought that would be interesting to present to people. We had a lady, Katie Kohler, a couple years ago come out, and she's a seamstress, and she was showing how you would have made these dresses, these, not so much the really, really fancy, elegant ones, and we do have those here that you can come see, but all the work that would have gone into creating this clothing. You wouldn't have a lot of clothes, but the clothes that you had were pretty, it'd last forever. You'd take good care of what you had. So that was another presentation. But and actually, we had a gentleman come out too who gave a presentation on the Chinese in Tehama County, and specifically Red Bluff, because Red Bluff had a Chinatown on what is now Rio Street, but in a very significant population here. So he's a book author who's written about that. But yeah, we're always trying to bring some education and fun to the community,
Something that we hope will be of interest, and we welcome ideas.
Yes.
Of what programs or information people would be interested in hearing more of. So
yeah, we welcome people's input. We're really trying hard to keep this place open. This is not a state-owned home. It's owned by the association. And of course, I also live in an old house, and old houses are a lot to maintain. This is, and this is a lot to maintain. We do apply for grants, and we do our tours, and we've been building up our volunteer base, because everybody likes to say, why don't you do this or that? And we're like, there's only 4 of us, and it's a lot. But we've been building that up, and we've been having more and more activities, all in an effort to raise money to keep the museum open to the public. That's our goal.
And we're open every first and third Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. And would like to open for special tours. So if family were coming in from out of town on another day, just to call the museum and we could open up for them.
We do that still now, as long as we have enough people that come in and
pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm. We have there's a group coming down from Reading in October, but it's nice. So we will give a private tour and take people through and teach them. And like I said, we're trying to build up our volunteer base so we can have more tour guides or Kelly guides.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. They used to be called Kelly guides. I like the sound of it. And we also want to encourage the school tours again.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a
We used to have
wonderful
a lot
idea.
of school tours, and then our number of guides declined, and now that we're building that back up, we'd like to have more school tours.
Kids say the greatest things. We have some of the old thank you letters, because the kids, when they used to come for tours, and send a letter from each child saying, "Oh, I enjoyed seeing this or that." You saw the mannequins upstairs, and the children will write these letters and they'll say, "Those dummies scared me." I'm like, dummies, okay. But we have some mannequins to display the clothing. That, and then we do have, of course, a smoke alarm in here. And when kid goes, I didn't know they had smoke alarms in the old days. Yeah, those have been added. Those are not original or vintage, But they're just fun, and they really. I think you have to spark that interest in history young. I know that as a kid, we went on a lot of field trips in schools and got me started. So, and look where we've landed. So yeah, that's another goal, to have that happen.
To get the next generation
Yes.
interested.
Yes.
How have you girls seen things change since you have been with the museum?
How have we personally, or how have things at the museum changed?
Yeah, how have you seen things at the museum change? Do you feel like the public is still really interested, or do you feel like there's been a decline, or anything you've had to adapt to?
It was COVID, I think, changed things for everybody, because people went, instead of going out for entertainment or more information, pulled into the house or into themselves a little bit. And so we've had less people touring, less people interested in volunteering and spending time in this kind of a situation. It's just been more difficult, I think, since COVID.
Definitely. And I do work for, like I said, the Tehama County Museum and with the Historical Society. And I hear it across the board. It's hard to find volunteers. It's really hard. And everybody will say, well, everybody who cares is getting older, they're passing away. And I'm not so sure that other people don't care. I don't know if it's a lack of time, lack of interest, or they just don't know. And I see that as a big problem. I mean, it's not the biggest problem in our society, but I think that any community's history is so important. It's really important to preserve it and share it so we remember where we came from. And I hear it all the time that groups are having to shut down. There was an airport aviation museum here in town that's had the same problem, so they're closed for the duration for now. Hopefully that'll reopen. There's a little museum in Corning down at their Chamber of Commerce that I would highly recommend people going to see, because it's really, it's not big, but it's a wonderful little place, again, to find the volunteers to come in and help. And And you have to be really driven to, I mean, I feel like we work full time as volunteers. So if we didn't love what we were doing, we wouldn't be doing it. So,
But each of us has a different interest
yes.
and a different focus, which complement each other, and some of the Kelly guides will only be able to work certain days or certain amounts of time, so we would accommodate that. We would accommodate that.
I think we've been really lucky too. We've been doing some outreach this year because, like I said, there's the risk of not being able to stay open. So we've been really working hard to do a lot of outreach, and there have been a few members in the community who have really stepped up to the plate. We have one gentleman who's helped us a lot with just simple things, even like we had band concerts out on the lawn this summer. The local community band came out and played music every Monday evening. The Seroptimus International were here every Monday evening selling desserts. This gentleman came out and he's like, well, you need lights out here. So he strung lights. So you need the porch painted. He'll paint the porch. Those kind of things are wonderful. I mean, that is so helpful to have somebody who will do that, and there's no problem. And like I said, because initially it started out with just 4 of us trying to manage everything. And luckily, like I said, we all love it and we're driven to get the work
and
done.
Have different interests.
Yes, and have different interests.
Which complement each
yes,
other.
And it's nice to have other places stepping up and helping when we are offering to help. When we'll have an ice cream social on September 21st from 3 till 5, and that's going to be an afternoon event out here on the lawn. That's a fundraiser event, but we have the community band will be here, a couple other organizations, the quilt organization,
Sun Country
Quilters, the Tehama County Museum should be here. I believe there'll be people from Idadobe out here showing some things too. We're actually going to have a sale booth here. We're going to have a little yard sale, but just in one little booth. So we figured we'd have a few extras and things that we'd like to sell, with all proceeds, of course, going to the house. Same with the ice cream social. But it's nice because what I like to do was, we've been posting signs for that around town. And even if it's a small thank you, but I'll put on Facebook, oh, thank you for this store for posting our poster. I mean, that might not be a big thing, but it's just another way to say thank you and help promote them too. We're all kind of in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's just nice to give back that way as much as we can. So
yeah,
we do appreciate
a lot.
the
Yes.
people supporting us. We appreciate you coming and sharing Kelly-Griggs and what we have here for people to come to see. And it's just been very nice.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things actually historically. I always think if people are coming in from out of town, there is the Idadobe State Park. There's just up on the freeway a little bit north. Of course, here we have the Roundup Museum. There's a museum in Corning, the Tehama County Museum. You could run the circuit. There's a Tehama County Museum rendezvous coming up at the end of September, kind of showcasing everything. And a lot of it, people are just still coming back and coming out of COVID saying, come on, we're here. But it's nice just to come over to Red Bluff and see a few of the historical things and grab lunch, or go downtown and go shopping or whatever. It's a beautiful community to walk around. We actually have a little map here that if people are interested, that it's nice. It's like a little walking tour to walk around the Victorian area here and kind of showing some of the houses and
What year they
were built and who owned them. And I think it's lovely. So
they could see that on our
yes,
Facebook page.
And on our website actually too, Kelly-Griggs.com. We have actually Kelly-Griggs-Museum.com, but we actually have a picture of the map on there too. But if you come for a tour, you can ask for one. And it's just a nice way to spend an afternoon. Maybe not when it's 110, but it's cooling off, and the fall here is lovely.
So to be a volunteer, it sounds like you don't have to necessarily be a historian. All types of help is welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
Especially with the school tours, it's more of an interest in children and in the schools themselves. We partner with we partner, so you're not touring on your own. You have someone to what information you may not remember another person has, so that you complement each other as you're being a Kelly guide. No, we would work with you and build on your interests to make it work, to be a partner.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me since starting this show is I had no idea how many staples of the community were ran by volunteers and nonprofits. And a lot of things that are interesting to the public are not necessarily like a sole prop business. It is volunteer based, and communities definitely need volunteers.
And the funding for the Kelly-Griggs House Museum is all donations. And so every little bit helps. We can try and be responsible with not running the air conditioner too high or too often, closing the shade, the blinds to make sure that the house stays cooler in the summer. We can make every effort as a
And we
board
do,
members.
yeah.
Yes,
We're a
but
little neurotic about it. Actually, we don't want to waste anything.
but it still takes the community donations to make it happen. So we're really encouraging people to come to the ice cream social, and have tried to make it a little bit more of an event this year with the additional museums coming. And we've always had the community band. It's a wonderful partnership, Kelly-Griggs and the community band. But we've invited a couple of other activities or nonprofits to be on the lawn also, to add interest. So we would love to have people join us. And we're working on the fall weather being there in time. So
We had, it's nice, there's a business here called Dad's Ice Cream, and he's donating the ice cream for the ice cream social, which is wonderful to have, again, that kind of support in the community. Because like I said, anything we earn goes right back into the house. So Gail had written a grant to the community foundation about a year and a half ago that we had to have the roof replaced. An upcoming issue that we have is with the base structure on the north side of the house is very old. The bricks are, from 1880. Those break down, so we're working to have all that reestablished again. So it's just ongoing maintenance all the time. So anyway, but like I said, we like sharing the place with the community, and we want people to know we're here and we're happy to share. And we're all very invested in the community.
Do you think there was a reason that Ann Kelly went the route of having the home turned into a museum rather than just selling private party?
She, when I came to the community in 1972, they bought the association bought the house in the late 60s, and then they spent about 4 years renovating the house. When I came in 1972, this room that we're in was actually the last room to be renovated, and it was you could see the dry rot in the windowsills. When you think of a teacher with minimal salary and no retirement, she didn't have the money to maintain the house, and so
I think it was an opportunity for her. Somebody said, "Hey, we're interested in buying this. This could be a win-win for both of us."
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think the house was probably in poor enough shape that not everybody would have purchased it.
Mm.
People have written on the Facebook post, I'll put up old pictures because there was a lot of pampas grass out in front back in the day. They said, oh, we remember being kids running around on the lawn and they didn't care. And I thought, that's so cool. So,
It's stealing the fruit.
Exactly, stealing fruit, exactly. Whatever. Yeah, but it's a lot. It would be hard. In the last few years she was living here alone. It's a big home. It's a lot for a little lady to be managing.
It was a large Catholic family, and she and Emma, the other sister, were the last two. And then she survived Emma by several years.
Mhm.
So there was, it turns out that there was nieces in Sacramento. So she had a place to move closer to family. But in Red Bluff, she was the last of her clan.
Yeah.
So,
She sold the house. It was $22,000, which in a way, I mean, that just blows my mind that that's how much and it took them 10 years to pay off the loan. But every year, like you said, this association, which I think a huge part of it was the daughters of, it was a women's group that was a huge
AUW.
Yeah, and they
University women.
Yes, of university women who did this. And there were definitely, obviously, a lot of men associated with it too. But they held different fundraisers at different homes in town every year. It was a big social thing to attend. They did different reviews, they would call them, fashion shows, whatever, all to raise money to be able to fix it and pay it off. And I'm just so impressed with what they did, you know. I love how the community came together to do that too. I think that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about why Miss Kelly sold it to the association rather than to just another person. But the house wasn't in too good a shape.
Yeah.
We have a picture that we can show you later of probably the day that she gave the keys over to the museum association, and it gives a little bit of a picture of what the front steps would have looked like. That's a good thought. I had never thought about that.
But there's other things that historically have been incorporated here too, that if the fence out in front wasn't originally here, that was actually put together by another volunteer. And all that metal is from the old jail that was here. They took those bars that apparently were on windows and he built the fence. He made the little finials that are on it. I think that was separate, but all of that was volunteer work. We have a piece of that needs to be replaced because fixed, you'll notice that one of our trees is eating the fence, but or consuming it, but that needs to be fixed. But that'll happen. That's kind of in our plans for in the future. The gazebo was added later too, but that's a wonderful little thing. Where the band will sometimes be in there, or maybe during the ice cream social, we may have the ice cream in there. I'm not sure what the layout of it is, but it's a wonderful addition. You know,
When the Museum Foundation purchased the house, a lot of the things that had been moved out were brought back.
Oh, good.
And over the years, the families have willed the pieces, or so we have several things that have come back that had left the house and have over the years have come back to the house, and our original to the house. This lamp was Mrs. Griggs, and we have a lamp of hers and a chair of hers upstairs.
I believe the bed was hers too upstairs.
The bedroom set, but of course it was big enough that it never left. So the bedroom set upstairs belonged to both the Griggs and the Kellys.
And one of the pianos too.
Yes.
Left when she moved or was left, those items stayed here. This piece here came from the Cone Kimball house that was the Cone mansion that was east of town, that was torn down a few years ago. And one of the ladies who works here said can we keep that? And this is like a staircase. I just lost the word for it. But when you go up the
Banister?
staircase,
No post, no post.
yeah, it's at the base of the staircase, and that's from that house. But they were going to toss that, and Carol, like I said, one of our associates was like, "No, you can't. We have to bring it here." So we've collected other things from the area. This is, we've got a painting of the Stanford branch here. So other things that weren't in the house but are historically important to the area and make sense to have here. So
Has anyone from the family, I know it's gone down some lineage now or a few generations out, but has any of the family reached out and said, hey, we're interested in purchasing the home, or
no,
they wanted
not
any
yet.
pieces or anything?
Not in purchasing it. The one family connection has just happened in the last month. And that was the great, I think, granddaughter
Mhm.
who visited because her own grandfather had encouraged her. She's the one family member that we've connected with. We haven't talked. We might be able to, but we haven't talked with a niece in Sacramento that would have survived Miss Annie. So
We have had outreach from one lady who's related to the Kellys who lives in Australia. She reached out
that's right.
to Carol once or twice about family history. I don't know that anybody has an interest in buying the house back. And technically, once you make a donation to a museum, we'll write it up saying that you technically can't come back and go, now I want it back, because that just gets a little crazy. So if you're ready to give it up, you have to be ready to give. It doesn't mean at some point we might not be interested in doing that, but that's the initial agreement, is that this is where it's going to live now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely a stunning piece of history. And I think what you said is very true, that a lot of times the working class is kind of overlooked. We romanticize the wealthy so much, but it's great to maintain history of the working class too, because that's the majority of us.
Yes, it is the majority of it.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. The movers and the shakers
Exactly.
in the community,
And this house has received many donations, and so it's, I suppose in one sense, the house probably more represents how the Griggs would have lived in the house as socialites, because one of our dining room set is from the Kimball family, and that would have been leaders in the community early. Our a piece in the office was from the Cone family. That would have been another
very prominent
family. So the house probably shows as more prominent families would have lived in it. And actually the last 30 years in the house would have been the ranchers and the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably not showing their lifestyle as much as it's showing the early, more prominent families of Red Bluff.
We have upstairs one of our rooms upstairs is a history room, so that's not just Kelly family and Griggs history. It's local California history. We've got some items from Tuscan Springs, some Civil War items. We have another room that has beautiful wedding clothing and beautiful dresses and suits that people would have worn. We have another room that's a bedroom that has some wedding outfits again, and we have examples of children's clothing, women's clothing, both fancy and simple, and just really beautiful. And one of the things that to me, I'm glad I didn't fight in the Civil War or live then, but I am fascinated by the history of it. And of course, this area, people don't often realize what an important history California has during the Civil War. Also, there's a lot of history here. And John Brown, the abolitionist, Red Bluff invited them in to stay. They said, "Here, we've got a house for you." They built it on Main Street. We have a beautiful painting here that his daughter did. And to me, that's just, I don't know, it's just so interesting to land in the same place. Maybe I don't know, in the world history, that's not that big of a deal, but in United States history, Civil War history, local history, that is a big deal. So I don't know. Anybody who enjoys the history, we can talk your ear off.
Well, it showcases multiple pieces.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Really does.
I think that's
And
very
we're fortunate
special.
to be able to do that.
Yeah. Anything else that you girls would like to share about the house or museum or the house, you know what I'm trying to say, the house
Mhm.
museum? Or I know you have the event coming up.
We have a Facebook page. We just started an Instagram page. We have a website. And I can get all that information for you. I don't know if you'd want to include that with this, but I can
Yes.
include that. We do post all our upcoming events on that. We have a Venmo account now. If people want to make a donation, they can
nice.
do that. We have our own QR code. You could scan that and make a donation if you feel the need to. We have, or we'd love to have you do that. You can become a sponsor of the Kelly-Griggs House Museum, and that information is also on our website. And again, all of it is appreciated because we are strictly run by donations and grants when we apply for grants. So,
And we would encourage people to come for
yes,
tours.
yes.
We would love to show the
Yeah.
house.
And again, they can contact us outside of regular tour times too, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. Because you can tell we're just kind of enthusiastic about the place and enjoy sharing. So yeah, we're a fun crowd. So it'd be great it's just great to share it and let people know what else is going on in Red Bluff.
And thank you to you
Yes.
for reaching out and
doing what you're doing.
yes, and wanting to know more about Kelly-Griggs. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
We appreciate it.
Don't make me cry. Don't
Actually,
make me cry, girls.
if people look at Enjoy magazine this month, they did an article about us. It's kind of fun. Yes. No, but we do. I was so surprised to hear from you too that this is great, and it's nice to have a lady talking to other ladies working hard to make things happen. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, and I do have one final question.
yes.
What do you think Miss Kelly would say if she saw the carpet?
Well, she'd probably have to vacuum it. 'Cause I don't think the carpeting was here. I believe the association put it in. I could see where if you have all your brothers traipsing in from ranches, everything else, it would almost be more of a hindrance than a help. But she'd probably be very impressed with it.
It is
you know?
very.
What do you think, Gail?
You asked a couple of good questions.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
She might think it was too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think it's beautiful, and
It is.
It is.
And
Yeah.
like you said earlier, it's a mystery what's underneath it, but it's probably best to
We'll just
preserve
leave
it.
for now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do. Gail, do you have any conclusions that you made about maybe what she was like?
She was a very social person. I mean, or approachable because she shared her clothes with a couple of young girls that lived around her. She just looks, Miss Kelly just looks friendly.
She does.
In
Apparently,
her-
she came to all the fundraising events,
Yes.
and she would, if they did a drawing for a prize, she would pull the ticket or whatever. I would have loved to have met her.
She would have been a fun lady to
Yeah.
know, I think. She was very approachable and she would have been someone fun to know.
When I think about all the changes they went through too, like I said, you're going from horse and buggy to cars, and
Right. What a
and
leap.
you're all teachers, and you're going out and educating children, and I don't know. I just think that, like you said, she would have to be approachable, and you'll see the picture in the hallway. She has the sweetest smile, and we do. If you look at our Facebook page too, we do have a lot of photos I'll put up of her. So I would have loved.
I would like to have known her.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, we can dedicate this episode to Miss Kelly.
Yes,
And let's give you girls just a small sneak peek. If you want to see the full thing, stop by first and third Sunday or give them a call to schedule a private tour. But we're going to show you just a few little tidbits. It's beautiful in here.
Yes.
So
And thank you for
girls.
watching.
Yes, and be sure to like, share, subscribe, all the awkward social media
Yes.
stuff.
Hi, my name is Linda, and welcome to the Kelly-Griggs House Museum, located at 311 Washington Street in Red Bluff, California. I'd love to share a piece of Victorian history with you. You don't often get an opportunity to walk into a Victorian house. You get to see them from the street, but this is a wonderful opportunity to come in and take a step back into Victorian era history, which would be mid-1800s to early 1900s.
And this is the dining room.
This is the dining room where the Griggs family, the family who built the house, would have eaten. The Kelly family bought the house from the Griggs family as the Griggs family was passing on. This is their dining room. And we have a lady, one of our volunteers, who kind of resets the table once a month, which I think is wonderful. She just makes it look really pretty. And it kind of keeps things fresh, and you get to see different types of dishes and dishware that people would have used. We do have a piece of the original lace curtain that was here in the house, hanging up here. The rest of it has been replaced over time. Our light fixtures are original. A lot of the furniture is original to the house, or if not necessarily original to the house, correct for the period of time of this house, which we believe was built in 1880. It was owned and built by Mr. Griggs. Then married the widow Montgomery, and she became Mrs. Griggs. They got married later in life, lived in this home until they both passed away, and then, like I said, the Kelly family bought the home, and it was quite a large family, and this was one of the places that they lived in Red Bluff.
So is this a foyer?
We call it a parlor.
Parlor.
That's what we are calling it, as a parlor. We keep the shutters closed. These are the original shutters, apparently. We do keep them closed when the house isn't open, because of course you want the light to not cause the furniture and paintings to deteriorate. We have one original piano to the house, another one was gifted to us. Lots of beautiful sofas and settees. We have an organ that was donated to us. We're in the process of hanging our photos, so we'll have a few more things up when you come to visit. And like I said, it's a Victorian square grand piano. Some things, rather than being brought here from the East Coast overland, were shipped, and they went down around the Horn of South America. Was no Panama Canal at the time, and brought up here and survived the trip. There used to be pocket doors in this room that would have split this room into two rooms. And apparently there was a fire sometime many years ago that kind of obliterated that, but it's still a large room. And when we have presentations here and functions, we typically hold them in this room. We invite people to come for tours on the first and third Sundays of the month from 1 to 4 p.m. Or you can schedule a private tour. We'd be happy to accommodate you as best we can. We're building up our volunteer base so that we can give more tours over time too.